Have you ever wondered why we are so paradoxical when it comes to choosing life partners? Meaning we seem to have a clear idea of what we need in relationships, but we often end up with someone who is not good for us. We get on these platforms, we go on dates, and we have this perfect speech about what we want, what we desire. But then when someone evaluates, so let's talk about men and women, right? Let's go hand in hand. But this is mostly going to be tied to women because women do the most talking about. Women do the most damaging remarks about the partners they've had. So the reality is, everyone wants a good person who treats us well, respects us, supports us, and loves us unconditionally. Let's underline unconditionally. But our oxymoron is that we're attracted to people who hurt us, who lie, manipulate us, make us unhappy. Why do we do this to ourselves time and time again? Are we all a gluttony of punishment? In many ways, are women drawn to that? The bad boy image. Are men drawn to the bad girl image? What shall we do with it? How can we explore some of the possible reasons of this phenomenon? Alright? But I'm going to tell you how. And I'm going to offer you some tips on how you can break the cycle of self-sabotage. I give you a bit of my personal experiences and insights. And I hope you guys will find this very helpful and interesting. I'm your host, Sam J. And this is Black Men in Suits, Urban Nation, Uncut Truth. So, one of the main reasons why we choose partners that are not good for us because we have a distorted self-image. We don't value ourselves enough, and we don't believe we deserve better. I know somebody may hear this and they may walk around and say, "Oh man, that's a lie. I love myself." But if you did, there are certain essences and values that you embody that when you meet someone, they will not be indifferent of your particular morals and your values. That's facts, right? See, when it comes to a distorted self-image, we don't fully feel that we're good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, and not worthy enough. Ladies, I'm here to tell you that a lot of men go through this mentally. And in this social media world, it's making it worse. Making it terribly worse. You brothers and sisters are out here looking for good people. But we are helping to sabotage the most essential mentality for our human preservation, and that is self-image. Self-image. You go out on a date with someone, you want that person to respect you and value you. You don't want them to have a preconceived notion of what things are supposed to be like and what it's supposed to look like. That's on either side. But we've allowed reality TV to teach us something that is particularly designed to just be entertainment, to turn into our reality. We settle for less than we deserve because we are afraid of being alone, being rejected. A lot of women do this, especially with a lot of women. They do. They think no one else will love them or want us. But I'm here to tell you, you have way more opportunity than you had before. You got millions, millions of people on this planet. Billions of people. Billions. I've even here recently listened to a podcast. I might share this in the link before. And I'm going to. And one of the young sisters that I really adore her a lot. Her name is Sabrina Sowell. And I may have pronounced the last name incorrectly, but she does a wonderful job with her teachings, her energy, her values, just her mental state as a grown black woman. And I respect that wholeheartedly. But I noticed in one of her statements, and when you watch the link below, actually I'm gonna share it. I'm sharing it with this podcast, and I want you guys to check out our channel, check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, support her 100%. And but I noticed in one of her statements that she makes is that she has this perception of what she has a great awareness of her self-love for herself. But then there's that one limitation. And that limitation is that she puts upon herself is that she's not going to date out of a certain uh, area code. I think majority of us do this in today's society. I think majority of us do this now. We have to realize we don't live in that world anymore. We don't live in that world where our parents were marrying us off. We don't have that culture. That culture still does exist. Absolutely. But we don't live in that world where we grew up with that culturally. What we did grow up with during a lot of our times at the age we are now. But I have to also still speak to some of the youth here, right? Some people that are 40 and above, we grew up in a decade to where you were only as limited as your options. And those options were based off your availability, the availability of the options. Case in point, we didn't have internet. Internet wasn't easy accessible until we was in like middle school, high school. So you think about the people who, and I'm 41, so you think about the people who are 50, 55, you get what I'm saying, that are still out here dating. They grew up in a time where there wasn't those things available. So I know what it's like to not have a cell phone, but you had a pager. When you talked on the phone at your home line, your phone at home. So you didn't have the accessibility that you have today to where you can chat with a person all day long from California in your pocket through text messaging. The most easiest form of communication. Voicemails, voice messaging, text messaging, one or two sentences all day, every day. The accessibility of communication is so, man, so significant now. The world is ever evolving, and we have to evolve with it. If we're not evolving, just understand, just respectfully understand that you're limiting yourself. Accept that. Just you know, and so another reason why we choose people who are not good for us, but because when we do get in these relationships, right? One of those reasons is that, right? We have this limitations that we put on ourselves, and so then the people we do allow into our lives, they're not good for us, right? Some of the reasons come about is because we have unresolved issues from our past. You know, we may have experienced some kind of trauma, abuse, neglect, or abandonment in our childhood or previous relationships that we internalize. You know, so you have like a internalized negative message about yourself or about love. You know, that creates a unhealthy pattern of attachment or coping that you have with another person, and that you learn to associate that love with pain, drama, or chaos. It's like an addiction. It's like an addiction or the adrenaline rush to the emotional highs. So I'll share another example. I was listening to a message from Judge Lynn Toler. If you don't know who that is the judge who was running like I think divorce court for a while. So that may ring a bell. And but she was, she was an actual judge, real judge at some point in a period point in her life. But I give this example about a podcast she did recently, and she was talking to the host about her marriage. But of course, at her current stage, her husband passed away recently, and Most High, rest in paradise, whatever his spirit is, and wherever his spirit has gone, and what new life that he's experienced with that spirit, right? But she talked about the wayward woman syndrome. I thought that shit was very good. I thought that was very good because she spoke about something that I think Sigmund Freud pointed out in a lot of his psychological studies, and that was when you associate love, children associate their love in life based off of their upbringing. That's a fact. What they're around, what they observed, what they experienced. That's where they learn it from. And so I hope, so with that dynamics to understand is that even what you're doing now, if you got children, they're learning the way you move, the way you act, how you treat the person you're with, how you operate with your relationships per se. Your children are absorbing that factually. If you are a family, if you're married right now, your children are absorbing that interaction. But Jocelyn Tola talked about when our marriage was shaky at some point, and she didn't realize that her own personal childhood trauma was affecting how she reacted with her husband. I mean, I thought this was very significant what she says, and I want you to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. And if I can find that link, I'll share it with this as well. But she talked about how, because when she grew up in her home with her dad, how he would react to her mom, because that's how a lot of them old school guys were. So abusive, mentally, verbally, and physically, right? That how simple as a simple disagreement between her and her husband, she immediately shut off and tried to protect herself from that conversation that she did not even need to protect herself from because her husband was not her father. So in essence, right, her father was abusive. So she used the statement of like if my mother didn't cook the biscuits right or cook food right, if the food wasn't hot enough, we had to be on edge at the house because my father was abusive. Let me tell you something, ladies. All that traditional shit that I be seeing these people talk about, do not let, this is for my brothers and sisters, especially for my sisters, do not let do not let this Esau mentality destroy what you think about love, life, or relationship, because their liberation, their Lila's, the Lilith's, their liberation is not your liberation. Their tradition is not you all's tradition. But it's become so prolific that it's so plain to see now the destruction that it's causing. And no one is talking about it. Everybody's just moving on and operating in the juncture of the foolishness. But no one is talking about the solution. But with that conversation, you think about what Judge Lynn Taylor stated, that because of what she grew up around, the abuse she grew up around from her father, just the mentality he had, she always tried to protect herself from arguments. So when her husband would have arguments, which they have right to have, your partner has a right to have a disagreement with you about something. But because of what she's been through as a child, or as a young adult growing up, the minute her and her husband had any kind of disagreement, it turned to something way bigger to her than it was for him. Yo, I've had those similar experiences. I've dated women where their past was so crucial that when they met me, I'm such a calm, cool, collective guy that it immediately was a relief. But the problem was with that is that I didn't have room to be in any kind of disagreement. Because the minute there was a disagreement about something, it turned very toxic on so many levels. And then the perception of the toxicity was just it was so unbalanced because I'm seeing the conversation, I'm seeing the disagreement as something that people have, but they're seeing it on a level. I'm at level one, they at level 10 with it. Like, damn, it wasn't that serious, but it is that serious for them, right? And that's an example. And I love that when that sister brought that out because that talks about, it just shows the growth that what it took her. And see, the key to this right is that it took for her to be doing the divorce stuff for a while to see the pattern within herself and like, wow. So I'm sure, so with that, that's an example of how that a person, even with having that being understood, you can still go years without it really ringing a bell to you until you see it front face and center sometimes. But in many occasions, what it takes for you is to hear the right message, to hear the right, uh, especially in today's society, right? To come across the right platform, come across the right uh, luncheon. 'Cause I think everybody doing all these luncheons now, these meetings, for you to hear that and then be like, damn, that's self accountability, you know. But I think about so like another reason we have this oxymoron choosing partners is that we're, and this should be number one really. I'm speaking it, I'm coming from a third perspective here at this point, but this really probably the number one factor in our life to right now, and that's influenced by social and cultural factors. We have these unrealistic expectations or fantasies about love and romance from what we're seeing on TV programming. Uh, and I hate to say this, right? Because I got a friend of mine that felt that romantic movies were not real life, and I say I disagree with that. Yes, I agree and I disagree, right? So where I where I agree with is that romantic movies, they are entertainment. The stuff we see on reality TV, media, movies, books, those are entertainment, hands down. But when it comes to the physical aspect of love, life, and relationships, those actions are very valid because you can do those things in your personal life. You have to be that, but you have to think that. You have to walk in that. And that is the purpose of those stories, those entertainments, is to strike whatever chord within your mindset that you desire to operate on. Unfortunately, in today's society, so much of ratchet TV is prolific. So guess what? Majority of the people are going to be ratchet. Now, I'm here to put it like this, right? There's no right and wrong to where you should live your life. That's facts. You have the opportunity and the freedom to do what you desire. But for those who are looking for something very substantial, something long term, something organic, and that's going to stay for the rest of their life, you first got to work on yourself. You got to spend time to yourself, spend some years to yourself. And what I mean to yourself, I'm talking about no dating, no talking on the phone, nothing. If you know, if every person you've met in the last 4 or 5 years didn't work out, and if you met more than 2 or 3 people a year, 4 or 5 years, and you at like your 6 or 7 or 8 person, no, it's time for you to work on yourself because you the issue. You the issue because there's a certain perception, a certain type that you're going for, you're desiring that gets your attention, and or that you give your attention to. See, especially for women because women have men approaching them consistently, without a shadow of a doubt. And see, what's scary about that is that you ladies have to be very careful because true love is not that bold. I know there's some women hate to hear, but unconditional love is not that bold because unconditional love does not give itself freely. I want you to let that statement sink in. Unconditional love does not give itself freely. It doesn't. So just because a man spending all this money, spending all this time on you, does not make it love at all. But we have to be honest with ourselves at times and others about what we're truly looking for and what we can offer to a very substantial relationship. There has to be a flexibility about your expectations and your fantasies. You got to know the difference between entertainment and reality. Knowing that when you meet another person, you meet another stranger. At a certain age, you're meeting a person who's been through experiences that you either may not never experience, won't ever experience, or have experienced way beyond that. And you have to date accordingly to that. You have to interact with people according to that expect to their experience. But in order to know their experience, you got to communicate with them. Y'all got to talk. We can't always be physical. Got to start using the brain, choosing wisely and carefully. Pay attention to signs and signals that indicate that there's something wrong or whether a person is good for us or not. We all have this what I call our spidey senses, right? You have an intuition. You gotta listen to it. Your intuition is a vibration that is. It's like your spidey sense. I call it spidey sense because it's kind of funny to kind of correlate a lot of the things that are in entertainment that drive from the reality of a human experience. Communication is key. You got to be real and upfront about what you want and you desire. If you dating someone, you getting to know them, and y'all communication, y'all conversation. It can't always just be about you. It can't always be about them. It got to be a conversation at some point about uh, respect, expressing your needs and what you want clearly, and what you respect and what you expect from others. One of the most important factors of this, I tell people all the time, is that enjoy the process, learn from the experience. Everybody you meet ain't for you, but you can have an experience. You can learn from the experience. Now, whatever and how you desire to mold that experience, that's on you. How far you willing to take that experience, that's on you. But you have to own up to that. You have to be committed to that decision, and not have what we call the buyer's remorse. I think it's time we be very optimistic about finding love. Reality has to kick in at some point to where you haven't dated everybody in the world, it's impossible for you to date everybody in the world, and there's somebody else out there for you. But in order to know that, in order to meet that person, in order to see him potentially, you have to be that person you're looking for. We're just, we're so oxymoronic when it comes to our choosing life partners, and we don't have to be that way. The world is evolving, and we have to change. We have to change with it. We got to change our patterns, our habits, and make better choices for ourselves and our own happiness. Even internally, you have needs and wants and desires that have changed from when you was 20 years old. If you're 40 years old, what you want to desire in your 40s ain't the same that you in your 20s. What you want to desire in your 50s ain't the same that you want to desire in your 40s. There may be slight differences and there may be large differences. Nonetheless, there is a difference. No matter the millimeter of it, there is a difference. And you got to know that within yourself. By the time you reach 35 to 40, you got to know what your future looks, your ideal future for yourself is. You can know it earlier. Nothing wrong with that, right? But in my perspective, between 20 to 25 to 30, you barely live. You just getting around the bends. You just getting around the corner. Now, you may have been in a relationship for 4 or 5 years during that time because you're so young and so naive and so committed that now, by the time you're 30, you're not in that same relationship anymore. So, yeah. Now, unfortunately, there's some people that move a lot faster than that. And this is not to shame them, but the point with that is self accountability. It's at some point you sit down, you think like, damn, this is the number. This is the time period. Shit, something have to change. Needs to change because where I'm standing now. But I desire this. It's like, shit, hey, you got to pick up the pace. But I hope you guys enjoyed what I just stated, and hope that it leaves a thought provoking perspective on this whole, ooh, what I call paradoxal of love that we have. Love hate relationship we have with ourselves. This inconsistency. We get on these platforms and say what a man's supposed to do, what a woman's supposed to do. They gotta have 6 figures, and all that shit is a damn lie. Because the next person you sleep with in your life, or the next person those people be sleeping with in their life, don't even come close to the things that they put out. And that bullshit gotta stop. The capping has to stop. Stop the dumb shit. Stop saying that shit when you know that's not reality. Man. But this is another episode of the Uncut Truth. I'm your host, Sam J. Get out of here, man. Hope you guys enjoy that and take heed to what I'm saying. Love yourself. Get to know you first. Spend some time to yourself. It will take 1, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, no matter what. Take time for yourself. Detox. Eat right. Exercise. And then put a lot of that work back into your journey to finding love. No more being, and I say this in the most respectful way, because it is so dangerous being in a relationship now, right at this point. The rise of domestic disputes, murders, kidnappings is next level. Has been next level this year, and ever since the pandemic, things have risen, and gotten larger. The numbers are getting larger every week, every month, every year. But absolutely, I want you guys to listen to that, take that heed, and do right by your brothers and sisters. Do right by your wife. Do right by your significant other. You feel me? Do something creative. Be spontaneous. Man, enjoy this life with the person you chose to be with. Because tomorrow ain't promised, and you never know what the future looks like, man. So enjoy life today and live it up. This is Sam J. The Uncut Truth, Urban Nation. Talk to you guys later. Shit. Wow. Thank you for many names, many lifetimes.